Randy Robinson at Life Today TV, and I got to say, in tough financial times, you want to talk to somebody like the guy that I'm talking to right now. I have Erik Van Alstine. He is the author of the Breaking Free series and an entrepreneur who has started several businesses, most of them successful. Erik, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Randy.
And okay, so I say most of them because they are, but some of the early ones went through some tough times.
Yeah, in fact, this series was birthed out of serious financial pain. I mean, you know, obviously, when you've got financial pain, there's a whole lot more that goes with it, relationship strain. And my first company I built basically from a desk beside the bed in my little apartment up to multi-millions in sales and 80 employees over 7 years. It was one of the fastest growing companies in America. And it cratered, and it's a long story. I actually tell that story in Breaking Free. But what a challenge, though. My sixth child was being born.
Oh, my goodness.
Lost everything. And yet, you know, kept my marriage and tried to keep obviously kept my character, stayed in the same church, even though 25 of those employees lost their jobs, were in our church. So it's just major. And as I came out of that and survived and began to rebuild and thrive, people started coming to me for advice, because if they're going through financial problems, they'll say, well, if I'm going through financial trouble, who best to talk to but the poster boy for financial failure, Erik Van Alstine? So they started coming to me, and 1 became 2, became 5, 10, and eventually I built a class. The class was so popular that my pastor asked me to put it into a DVD series, and now it's a small group program.
But let's not stay on the failure, because you didn't stay on the failure.
Absolutely.
You learned from those lessons and went on to
Yep.
create several successful companies.
Yes.
Some of which are still good income streams for you today. Yeah.
Yep. In fact, one of the benefits we've had in all this financial difficulty is that we have not missed a beat. We've not had a down year in 8, 9 years, and a lot of it is from the hardship and the difficulties and the lessons learned from those. You know, I was part of the dot-com meltdown. I started at dot-com, failed in that. And you know, once you get through failure, you go through failures in life, you learn from them and start to, figure out how to duck, when the next 2x4 comes flying at your head. And so we've learned and we've grown, and a lot of the stuff that we've learned, we actually put in this program to help people not only understand personal finance, but learn how to create value. Think in terms of multiple streams of income and how to save, how to put enough padding in place so that rainy days don't just wipe you out. And we've lived that in our own life.
What are some very basic, some of the starting points when you're talking to individuals to maybe look at? Where do you look first to check your financial health?
Well, we know that one of the biggest challenges that people have in our modern era of swiping cards and buying things here and there's such a flurry of economic activity going on because there's so many things that we could buy, is that managing cash flow is huge. We've found that the average couple in America making about $50,000 a year spills at least $4,000 of that just because of the methods they use. So we've actually developed a method that enables them to recover what we're calling $4,000 of spill. And with that spill, you can pay your debts, you can put in savings, you can invest in ministries, you can pay your tithes, you can do so much more. So the biggest emphasis we have in the program, obviously we talk about breaking debt, we talk about all these kind of things and how to do multiple streams of income, how to create more value. We even tell people how to ask for a raise at work in the language that their boss really understands best. I've had so many testimonials of people saying, that was the easiest ask I've ever done because I was on the same page as my boss.
Even if your boss is your dad?
Now that's
I'd like to know that secret.
Now we got a whole new series for that strategy.
Okay.
But seriously, we found that if you can help people recover that spill, if you can teach them about all these other things, and not just teach them, but in this series we actually train people. And it's the difference between information and transformation. We've boiled this program down to the vital behaviors and reinforced them in what we call an experiential learning structure. In other words, we have the participants teach or learn from fictional Sam and Sally, the average couple with average income and debt, and actually walk through an experience of how fictional Sam and Sally would break debt, how they would establish a cash flow plan. And so it enables us to experience personal finance, not just learn about it, but actually do it in groups and keep confidentiality, because this is personal finance. I mean, I'm talking about a small group program about personal finance, which doesn't make sense at all, because people don't want to disclose their challenges in a group. So this enables people to participate in a group, to do the activities. And by the way, I tell them all about all my failures. So hopefully there's an authenticity, in the room and in the group, so people, if they feel comfortable, can share. But what we find is that people really get equipped. The vital behaviors that help them learn how to better the finances are there with them, and they can take that back to their personal lives. So it's very exciting, and I think we hear stories all the time of people really being transformed and strengthened by this, and that just excites me to the core.
I'm guessing that living within your means is key to your system, yeah?
Huge. I mean, contentment, godliness with contentment is great gain, not only spiritually, but in our regular lives. And I think if we think of trying to keep up with the Joneses, well, where are the Joneses? They're in debt, they're leveraged to the hilt, they're on the verge of going out of, dealing with major personal crises. Do we want to keep up with that?
Let me ask you this, because we kind of all know that, but I know I have been at a time where I was in debt, not because I was trying to keep up with anybody, but because I had to buy diapers, and food, and gas.
I can totally identify with that.
I think a lot of people are there right now.
Well, food prices have gone up.
Exactly.
Gasoline costs have gone up. Incomes haven't gone up.
Where do you cut?
That's
Drive
a
less,
challenge.
Eat less.
I think one of the things we often find is that people are spending most of their money in cars. In new cars or newer cars, and high insurance costs, and there are ways to cut a lot of money out in just thinking differently about the automobile and how we work that. But
I know
it is a challenge.
One of the fastest ways I cut my expenses was to call my auto insurance agent and say, how can I get my premium down without sacrificing? You have to make choices about what you got to sacrifice, what's smart, what's not smart. But I was amazed at how much they had kind of stacked into their little boutique package that I thought I didn't need, And it's like, not quite a bit off like that. So you cover a lot of great ground in there for the average individual. Is credit card debt the demon from hell that I think it is?
It's a big challenge. In fact, one of the strategies we have is to actually use cash in the flexible discretionary spending categories that will get away from us. So we call it, there's 4 categories. We call it go, grow, show, and blow. And we'll tell you exactly what those are in the program. But basically, these are the areas where we can spend more money without knowing it. And so we teach people actually to use cash strategically in those areas so that you can get away from the illusion that you're not really paying the price. I mean, what the huge benefit of cash versus plastic is that you experience the pain of paying.
It's true.
And I've done this with buying cars. I buy cars cash now. And I've actually had, I've gone from being completely leveraged and in debt to being out of debt and being able to pay. And I could pay for something, but the pain of paying, even though I had the money, the pain of paying caused me not to pay. Whereas if it was financed, I would make it, it'd be easier. And studies have actually shown that people spend about 30% more, even in the grocery store, on credit cards or debit cards. So if you take plastic into the grocery store and you're going to spend 30% more. Or if you're hungry and you go to the grocery store, you're going to spend 30% more. So if, imagine what somebody's monthly food budget is. If you could shrink that by 30% and get the same bang for the buck, so to speak, just because you think it's smarter, man, that's a big savings. So credit cards are a factor, and we teach people how to get off of them and to use, plastic wisely.
Great tips. Now, this is not just for individuals.
Right. This is actually designed for small groups. As I said before, it's a small group program, and if you get a few people together, it's amazing what kind of power it has to encourage people together to try to get out of the struggles and deal with the struggles that we all deal with. And it's something that actually entire churches are using as all-church small group campaigns.
Is it loaded with scriptures, or could I take this into a secular business and kind of
Get
away with it?
That's a good question. We actually have our about 10% of it scriptural. It's obviously all scripturally based.
Right.
We're building on biblical principles here. But about 10% of the program itself has scriptures in it. But the neat thing is we've got a 40-day devotional that goes with this. So all scriptures around the 6 major themes that we teach inside of Breaking Free. And then on top of that, we offer sermon notes for pastors so that they can preach the themes on the weekend, and then the small groups go through the same application of those themes once a week, and then they're reading through the devotional, which is day-by-day emphasis on these themes. So it really enables people to immerse themselves in the program.
Great. Where do they find it?
TheBreakingFreeChallenge.com. That's TheBreakingFreeChallenge.com, and you can get everything there.
Great. Now, I want to mention one more thing before I let you go,
Yeah.
because I know that you are now talking to a lot of businesses.
Yes.
And you have this code that you're unlocking.
Yes.
Give me the short version of that, just in case there's a business owner out there watching.
Absolutely.
Who wants to hear a little more from you.
Sure. The code is a 20-year project for me. It has been 20 years in the making, and as I told you earlier, 7 years I've been writing this book, and it's all about the science of self-regulation. It's how we intelligently pursue goals, and what is it that holds us back individually and organizationally. And I'm doing, for instance, I just did a 4-hour lecture in our local university on procrastination and how to break the power of procrastination. I've lectured on how leaders can lead more effectively, understanding the deeper dynamics of what motivates us. And when we understand those things, we're able to change more effectively. So my expertise is on how individuals and organizations change. And basically the code is an empowerment program to really help companies go to the next level. In fact, Breaking Free is built on those underlying principles in personal finance. So I'm very excited to be able to share this with people. And my heart is to really help people go to the next level in their lives, whether it be finances or whether it be, how to motivate my employees or how to lead more effectively at work, how to deal with interpersonal conflict. All of those things actually are somewhat related, and I talk about those deeper principles. And what I love is when the lights go on for someone, when they really experience transformation. You know what I'm saying? When a paradigm shifts, man, it really creates a lot of value. And ultimately, that's what I'm here to do, is create extraordinary value for individuals and organizations. And personal finance, obviously, creating value there. But what I'm doing in companies with the code is very exciting. And actually, they can find out more about that on erikvanalstine.com.
Great.
My website has both Breaking Free and the code in it.
Good stuff. Check it out for yourself, for your company, for your church. Who doesn't want more value out of life?
Amen.
Whether it's financially or spiritually or any other way, relationships, all good stuff. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Be sure to watch Erik when he is on. You'll be on with your wife on Life Today.
Yes.
That program is available. He talks more about his personal experiences there. So I know you'll want to hear from him and from his beautiful spouse. So check that out on lifetoday.org. And again, thank you for spending some time.